So once we learn how to weld, we should build a bike.
Eyes.
Yeah, maybe we should film the whole build and then make a documentary about it.
We could do a follow-up to the Dirtbag movie. All those guys said you don't have to be a mechanic to build a bike.
I don't know. I mean, we all work behind desks and stare at computers all day. Do you really think we could pull that off?
I think we can, and I think we should shop the Rattler.
What is that thing? Or that? Why is this connected to the... I have no idea what these things are. I don't even know what that thing is.
So many years ago, my friends and I ended up with a free bike. This guy needed help cleaning out his garage, and he gave us this bike in exchange. It wasn't running, but it was a free bike.
As it turns out, the bike was a Yamaha XS 650. And we actually had no idea that this bike was pretty popular or even had a cult following.
Although all of us rode at the time, none of us had any experience wrenching.
Since we had nothing to lose, we decided to take it apart and try to get it running again. You know, if we failed, you know, we would have learned something. We would have seen the inner workings of a motorcycle.
In the end, we were able to customize it a bit and get it running. We also filmed the entire process and put the film online. We called both the film and the bike the Rattler.
Paul Brown, the founder of the Dirtbag Challenge, saw the video and got in touch with us and asked us if we would like to film his event. And that's how we got around doing the first Dirtbag documentary.
In that film, everyone we interviewed said the same thing. Anyone can do this.
Anybody can do it. I mean, you don't have to be a mechanic to do it.
Anybody can do this. Fuck, if I can do it, really, anybody can do it.
We all work behind desks and have no building experience whatsoever. So we decided to put what they said to the test.
Flash forward a couple of years and we still had the bike. But for the most part, it was just sitting in a garage. So it was the perfect bike for what we had in mind.
It was Lewis's idea to make a follow-up film to the Dirtbag. So after years of being spectators, we decided to take the Dirtbag Challenge and build a chopper of our own.
We have 3 Saturdays before Dirtbag.
Almost there.
By the time we decided to actually join the contest, the go date had already been announced. So already we were running behind. So instead of making a hardtail section from scratch, we decided to just go with stuff that we found on the internet. While we were waiting for things to arrive in the mail, we used the time to kind of just look over the bike and decide what we needed to do, what could stay, what could go. When we first decided to make a chopper, I thought it was going to be as easy as replacing the back end, but it turns out it was way more involved than that.
This one that I'm unscrewing right now, what the fuck is this thing?
Want to just do piece by piece first and just see what comes off?
Fucking shit, what is this? Is this negative or positive?
We took off what we could, labeled everything, but there was a lot of standing around and wondering what to do. We didn't have a plan at all. Plus, we didn't really know how to weld either. We had about an hour's worth of welding lessons from the guy that runs the Dirtbag Challenge.
This is a MIG welder, and I'm going to be showing you flux core MIG. It's a little bit easier to get started with these type of welding hoods, because you know, you can look through the clear lens and get your position correct. Position is very important. Not just to be comfortable, but to have the right type of movements in the right direction to create a good solid weld. So especially as a beginner, an automatic hood is really nice to have.
So after we got as far as we could without actually hacking anything off, we got back to welding practice as well as cutting and grinding. You know, basic skills that we had none of.
What the hell was that?
Eyes.
Wait. God damn it. There we go.
Eyes.
What's going on?
We spent time welding together a mock-up frame. The kind of welding we thought we'd have to do later when the prefab tail section came in the mail. Dirtbag builders have access to different parts they can trade because a lot of dirtbaggers are in the industry, the motorcycle industry. We're not. So this is kind of the route that we had to go, was purchasing a lot of this stuff.
So even after we got the parts in the mail, we were still pretty hesitant about making that first cut. You know, the bike is special to us. It's the bike we learned how to wrench on. It had been in the family for a long time, and we were, you know, kind of afraid that we were going to be destroying the bike forever.
Yeah, so I don't know if it means cutting this or digging into that. I think it means cutting this. Yeah. Because the more you dig into that, the weaker that joint will be, right? Right? Right?
Wow. Once we got the first cut done, we were committed. There was no turning back. We moved carefully and slowly, cutting an inch at a time because we figured, well, you know, it would be much harder to add more material if we cut off too much.
If we didn't have a deadline, we'd have taken the time to study the wiring diagram and come up with a more elegant plan, but the clock was ticking.
We were unsure about what to do with the frame. We were beginning to feel like we bit off more than we could chew. So we asked Paul to come by so we can bounce some ideas off of him.
What I would do, get another piece of steel and make a little, you know, make a little join bracket if it's too, or if it's close enough, you know, then put a bead of weld between.
That's more welding.
It's more welding.
What's stronger? That way? This thing is screwed onto the bottom or whatever, top of it, right? Or side, whatever.
Yeah.
I have to make holes in this in order to put... Yeah. Okay, so that's what you do? You drill like a hole like maybe... Where?
Wherever you want. It's your design, it's your bike.
What tool do you use for that?
You use a hole cutter.
A hole cutter?
It's called a hole saw, and they sell them at Lowe's, Home Depot.
Saw?
Hole saw.
I can't just use one of those bits like this.
That's a fucking hole saw, you dingbat.
Oh, okay.
When I was a young kid, I wondered about you. I watched as you're dancing with him in the gym, and you never looked over. You never noticed. I spent a kid's lifetime to be just like him. Hey, 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 hey.
First time handling a grinder. This should be interesting.
Now that I'm older, the world is changing. We sit back and wait for the wars to begin. We send in our nieces, we send in our nephews. Those Christians and Muslims, they're at it again.
The Dirtbag Challenge is a bike build-off that happens every year in San Francisco. The challenge part of it is that you get a $1,000 budget and 1 month to build it.
My name is Paul Brown and I'm the founder of the Dirtbag Challenge. It's been going on for 12 years. Started out as a bet, a dare, between a group of friends. We had a party, people liked it. We had another party. It grew into what it is now. Still homegrown and still free, you know, and still behind the shop in Hunters Point. People are way more inclined to get off work, whatever their fucking shitty job is, whether they're a tech geek earning way too much money, or they're digging ditches for nowhere near enough money. They get off work, they go to wherever their place of abode is, and they crack open a cold one and plump themselves down in front of the fucking one-eyed lodger, and that's the end of their evening. There's far too much stagnation. I personally find participation far more enriching than observation. We have a lot of people that volunteer a great deal of time and energy, a great deal. I can't guess at any other reason than they like being part of something, I suppose. I think people like to be part of this because it's real. People that are participating, the builders, they're all real people. They're all accessible. They're all the guy you know from the bar or the guy from work. These are the people that build bikes. There's nobody who's like famous and up on a pedestal. Everybody is accessible. I think that has a lot to do with why the show is so successful and therefore why more people want to become involved in it. I personally feel far more enriched by having been personally involved in making whatever it is, whether it's dinner or my motorcycle. I like to make it my own. I want to make it my own, and I encourage everybody to make their own.
You centered?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So we're gonna tack. We're not welding the whole thing on. We're just tacking the bolt on to keep the bolt in place, and then we're gonna remove this fake oil tank, and then finish the weld. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay to weld indoors, right?
Totally. Go for it. Totally. Go for it. What's the matter?
I totally missed it.
It's off center. I can see.
That's fine.
It's fine.
Fuck it. Should we start again? It's totally off center.
Paul let us borrow his welder, and we had it at home. So before actually working on the bike, we decided to do some practice welding. It turns out the welding that we had to do on the bike was a lot more intricate, and you needed to be a lot more precise. Welding on that fake oil can was a big problem for us. The oil can was going to be mounted by two small nuts. Now, to get the nuts mounted on the down tube of the frame, we had to hold the oil can in position and then tack weld the nuts that were going to hold it, and then we were going to take off the oil tank and then finish the welds all around the nuts. We took, I don't know, it took countless tries to get it done. We kept melting the nut, and then when we thought we got it on there right, it would ended up being crooked. We didn't know that finishing the actual welds around the nuts would actually cause it to shift out of place, or in some cases it would heat up so much that it would melt right through it and we'd have to start all over again.
I fucking welded it to the thing.
And we'd have to grind it all off and then redo it all over again. That sums up pretty much the whole build. What we thought should only take about 5 to 10 minutes actually took about an hour.
People have very different ideas about what a dirtbag bike is.
The contest attracts mechanics and fabricators and people from the motorcycle scene, but it also welcomes complete beginners.
People show up with anything from rat bikes to choppers to some way out there stuff that no one's ever seen before.
So besides building our own bike, we wanted to see what other builders were doing.
I'm Justin Martins. I'm a carpenter.
I'm Eric McDougald. I'm a full-time student. Was a Honda 400 CM 400T, I believe was. He found it on Craigslist from some guy. We got it from the city. I think we bought it for $400. beer bottles were like the project that took the longest. We made headlights out of the beer bottles, and we just did it with like hot water, cold water, you know, but it took us a long time to figure out how to get it good. We just wanted to do something different, and I was like, that's something we do a lot that we have in common is drink beer.
We did the wiring harness ourselves by just trial and error. We took everything off. We started it, disconnect the wire, and then as that went, and then we found one that made it not work, we connected that again, and those are the ones we kept. Yeah, we tried to do as many things with the bike to make it our own. One of the main things that kind of put us on the course to the design and all that stuff was almost everything was stuff I brought home from work. And that was how all the ideas on the bike happened just naturally. One time I was at work, I get home, the bike's like ripped completely apart, and he's like, oh yeah, I just took everything off. And I'm like, oh, I got this rod and these pieces of aluminum and some of this copper tubing. And he's like, oh, I wonder if that rod would work as a handlebar.
How do you think we did last night?
Actually, I think you did pretty good. You didn't do too much, which I was a little afraid of. You didn't try and overstretch your abilities. You got everything cut and tacked in position perfectly, actually. Yeah, pretty good.
I mean, it took me an hour and a half to do that one weld right there. It kept falling off. I kept melting into it, you know. So
Well, I'm happy to help you finish it. And in fact, I think what's really cool about this is that you are able to acknowledge your limitations, you know.
we called in help. While he's strengthening our welds, or not, he's welding. Let's call a spade a spade. We tacked it on yesterday, and he's welding everything into place. And we are making the little parts to fill in the holes. Like,
Don't say that. Cut.
what?
Don't say making the little parts to fill in the holes. We are fabricating gussets and bungs. We're making little parts to fill in the holes.
We're fabricating gussets and bums. Bums?
Bungs, B-U-N-G-S.
Bung holes.
My name's Jason Lissica. To put bread on the table here, I'm a trial technician. I show up with attorneys at trial and set up their equipment. I present evidence for judge and jury at a trial, essentially. I always wanted to build a bike that had an extended swing arm. So that's the first thing I did. I extended the swing arm 5 inches, and that determined the height, and I adjusted the front ride height, and then I had a roller after that, and then I built the rear suspension and the seating and the tank and stuff like that around, that idea to have a low slung, high pipe bike. I've ridden cross country 3 times. I rode when I was a teenager, and then when I did it again, like 4 or 5 years ago, I went to Oakland to a junkyard. I got a 79 KZ 650. I customized it exactly the way I wanted to do it. I just knew that if I did it from the beginning my way, that when I got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm here, I'm out in the middle of goddamn nowhere, nobody's gonna help me, and it's just me and my bike and my machine, the thing that I have to rely on to get what I need to get done. I knew that when I got to that point, that I would have this overall sensation of freedom and satisfaction and pride. You get that feeling, on the Dirtbag Challenge when you're riding. I got the feeling this year. You're riding down one, pole was to my right and forward, and I was on that bike there, and I saw him just kind of get settled in. And I did the same thing. I thought, man, this is it. If this could just last forever.
More? Yes, please. One more.
More?
No, I think
yeah,
one more.
I think more.
One more.
There.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. I would not have thought of that, to use this.
I was actually thinking that.
Yeah, sure you fucked them up.
No, I was.
My name is John, and I'm in the Navy. I'm in the military. I've been in the military for about 18 years. It started out as a 1992 Kawasaki KZ1000P. My buddy Johnny found the bike on Craigslist. It was like for $600. The first thing I did was I lowered the rear end. I was gonna hardtail it. I kind of went away from that real quick because it was gonna take too long to do it. So I decided to keep the shocks on, and then I chopped off the springs to lower it. I lowered it by like about 2.5 inches. And on the front, what I did was I cut the main frame, and then I cut the top off, and I cut the bottom, and then I took off the box on it that braces it, and I took off about 1/2 inch to I think a full inch out of that top tube, and I put a jack in between the frame and the fork, and then I jacked it. I spread it until the top tube met each other, and then I welded it. Yep. And then it worked perfect. I put a level on it, everything was straight. I got the 21-inch wheel for $75 from a guy in Napa. I bought all of the sheet metal from Home Depot. It cost me $67 for all of them. So I basically made patterns and tried them on, and kind of, draw it out on the metal, and then cut it from the metal, then put it on. It was trial and error pretty much. I think I got up to $920. Throughout my life, I've never really wanted to do something that everybody else was doing. You don't want to go somewhere and then you pull up next to another bike. It's the same exact bike, I want to personalize pretty much everything that I have. Whenever you do something to an object, it becomes yours.
Hey, where'd you get this welding blanket? It's this super cool cotton canvas.
Oh, that? Just some stuff I had laying around.
My name is Julian Farnham. I'm traditionally trained as an industrial designer, which is what I do for most of my career, but I'm also currently working as a mechanical engineer. I've been riding motorcycles since I was about 12 years old. I started out with a little Rupp mini bike. By the time I was 16, we had a number of dirt bikes in the family, and I said, "Hey Dad, I'm 16, can I sell the dirt bikes and buy a street bike?" By the time I was in my early 20s, I wanted to road race. I wanted to build motorcycles specifically for road racing. So I started modifying bikes, and the parts that I couldn't buy, I would end up building. So I think my first fabrication project was building rear sets for an RD 350. By the time I was in my 30s, I was building road race frames. So literally the entire chassis of the motorcycle I was building from scratch. And these were projects that would, take a year or two in duration, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars in parts and materials. So the idea of building and completing a project in 30 days on a $1,000 budget sounded really cool. You know, I could actually get something finished in a short amount of time. When Dirtbag says go, I've got a design all worked out. A lot of times I've got drawings, sketches, I've got CAD models. When they say go, I'm here in my shop building parts. And the appeal is now I've got this set deadline, this set budget that kind of constrains my process, it constrains my design. So I'm not doing these elaborate projects that could carry on for years and years, and in some cases not even get finished. I know it's going to be finished in 30 days, and I'm going to ride that damn thing. So I found this 750 Monster on Craigslist for 400 bucks. The guy had literally looped it over backwards, so everything on top of the bike, the tank, the instruments, the seat, the tail, all of that destroyed. Frame was bent. I think I got forks and wheels with it, but they were kind of screwed up. But what I was after was the engine and the electrics. I had started looking at this bike online called the Aerial Ace, being built in England. Gorgeous motorcycle, uses a girder front suspension. And I've seen girder suspension used a lot, especially on choppers. It's real popular, and that became an inspiration. So my goal with the bike was to do an entire chassis, so frame, front suspension, rear suspension, using a lot of sheet metal parts. I found a company in Las Vegas, of all places, that was dirt cheap. I think I got all the laser cutting done for about 200 bucks, including the material. Of course, the rest of the bike, all the fabrication, I've done myself here. So got all the parts back, and it was literally like putting together a Lego set. I picture things in my mind. I can envision the entire motorcycle three-dimensionally in my mind, and I have to get it out. You hear artists talking about, I gotta get it on paper, I gotta get it onto the canvas. For me, it's, I gotta get it into metal. These are my paintbrushes here.
I work as a graphic designer, and I actually like my job, but I never really feel a solid sense of accomplishment at the end of the day. And I think it's because I sit in front of a monitor all day making these digital things that don't feel real or permanent, as opposed to when I was making the parts for the Rattler. Not only did I feel connected to the past, to people who used to do this when they first started making choppers, but I also felt a connection to the future because the things that I was making, that brake stay or that brace, these things felt solid and permanent. That website that I made, you can delete that shit with a couple mouse clicks. Another reason the Rattler is special to me is it kind of mirrors what's going on inside my head. Back when we first got the bike in 2008, I was going on about a year sober from being on drugs for most of my life. I was dealing with a lot of guilt and anger and regret, not because of what I'd done, but because of how I'd been trained to deal with what I'd done. I grew up in the Philippines, which is a very conservative country because it's a very Catholic country. And growing up Catholic, you're told to operate one way and not to question anything else. When I moved to the States and I discovered that it was okay to explore other ways of thinking, I began questioning everything I had grown up with. Okay, so the metaphor I'm trying to make here is I was put together a certain way at the factory, but one day the stock parts just didn't work for me anymore, and it was time to make some changes. It's kind of funny, but the questions that we were asking while we were working on the Rattler were the same questions that I was asking myself as I was hacking away and customizing my own belief system. Questions like, is this part really necessary? Do we really need this part? If not, then let's get rid of it. Is there a part that we need but don't have? And can we get that part from another bike or from somebody else? Or better yet, can we learn how to make this part ourselves? It's gotten so that I can't think of one thing without thinking of the other. But it's not like the Rattler saved my life or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, the Rattler and my belief system are kind of in the same state right now. I think that's a great place to be in, because that's when you learn, and that's when you explore, and that's when you discover things. And hopefully, at the end of it all, you've gathered or even made parts that work for you, and you've made this thing that's unique, and you've made this thing that's your own.
When it's coming, or how long the whole thing takes, but I know that I am ready for the break.
Let's try this first, so that way we'll.
Okay.
If we cut it too short, we're fucked.
Well, yeah. Well, I was also saying let's move the wheel so that it's at the right place
Okay.
also. And you know, if you want to move it back, we can move it back. Then we just do this one.
Can you put that fender on real quick?
Dude, I don't know, but it's gonna clear like right here.
Is this supposed to go on the inside or the outside?
It's supposed to go on the inside. So. Oh shit! This thing's crooked now. Why is that fucking crooked? Fucking moved.
What's crooked?
This thing. See it?
No, it was like that.
So it wasn't straight when we welded it?
Yeah. It's the day before the Dirtbag, and we have a long way to go. We had 24 hours to... We had 24 hours... We had 24 hours to do more welding, figure out how to hide all the wiring, and fix a leak.
So that's touching. That's not. Frank, is it straight? Can you look at the level? Oh yeah, it's perfect. It's just pretty much perfect.
So what's the issue here?
The issue is it's not close enough to the steel. Like the two bits are not close enough together for me to kind of weld it, because one's round, the other one's flat, so. I'm inclined to go with what you said. Fill that shit with some nails and crap. How about these?
All right. Well, let's see if I can find them.
So I work as a facilities manager for a global law firm. So I manage 5 offices. A lot of people don't know what that is, but that's basically just paying bills for the offices, ordering furniture, work with all the different trades. I get to work with the plumbing and electricians and stuff like that. I don't do any of the actual building when it comes to like when I do remodels and build outs like that for the offices. What I like about working on motorcycles, and particularly this bike, is that with my other work, it's not really tangible what I did with my hands. You know what I mean? It's not really, I work 8 hours, but what do I really have to show for it? When you work on motorcycles, you put in 8 hours and it's kind of the finished product, or however far you got during the day. You know, whether it's just, you know, doing your own services, changing your own spark plugs. At least you can see you can touch and feel what you actually did.
We knew this bike intimately. We knew every piece of it. We've taken it apart like several times. So I thought this is gonna be just a piece of cake. There's 4 of us. We're not mechanics, but we know our way around the bike. It should be easy. I thought we were just gonna chop the bike, but the minute we started, I knew we were in for it. Things just came up. Even taking the wiring harness apart, we were thinking, okay, we could try to rewire it and just rewire it with only the wires that we needed. I basically took the wiring harness apart and we labeled everything. And when we put it back together, we ended up using the original wiring harness. We basically didn't have time to try to figure out each electronic component that we needed on the bike. So the original plan was to hide the wiring harness inside of this metal cylinder. Just doing something as simple as that probably took all day. I would figure out a way to get all the wires in there, and then we'd realize the regulator rectifier wasn't long enough to fit where we wanted to place it. We had to take everything back out, route part of it from the bottom, route part of it from the top, stick it back in. Then we tried to turn the bike on. It wouldn't start. We didn't know if something was unplugged or what. So we took everything apart, looked at all the connections, found the missing connector, reconnected it. We found the right routing for all the lines. When we reconnected everything, the bike started on its own. So we had to take everything out again and figure out why the bike started on its own. I think I had crossed a couple of the wires. It took me about half the day to route the wires for this bike. Something that seemed pretty easy, but we took an old bike completely apart, and to put it back together in a different format was a lot harder than I thought. What I do for a living is I work with computers and IT. I hate my job. It's boring, it's not rewarding. I like motorcycles because it's something I get to do with my hands, and it's rewarding. You build something and you ride around on it and you have fun, and you accomplish something, you finished it. Oh, God. Let's take that thing out again.
I work in facilities building management for a software company in the East Bay. At my job, everything is pretty set, and you got to follow rules to the T. And in contrast, I like working on the motorcycle because you get to do whatever you want. You can make it exactly how you want. If it's pretty, that's fine. If it's not pretty, that's fine too. That's why I get a lot of satisfaction from working on wrenching on my own bike. Whereas at my job, the only satisfaction I get is that I won't get into trouble for doing my job.
I hate my job.
We purchased the hardtail section and the back fender from one place, and so we thought when they would come in that they all should fit, together. But as it turns out, these things are not plug and play. It turns out that when you put the fender on, you have to actually make the tabs yourself, and you actually have to cut away a part of it because it's rubbing against the chain or rubbing against the battery container. You can measure as many times as you want, but once you start welding, things start to shift and start to move, and then you have to start all over again, and okay, now the fender's not lining up with the wheel correctly, and the chain's still hitting it, so you have to actually take it off again and cut a little bit more off, and it's just kind of a big headache.
Since we weren't using the struts that came with the fender, we had to weld an extra crossbar to the frame, so we had a place to mount the fender. It turns out that because we did that, the frame dimension shifted. Also, the part where the axle mounts is thinner than the original swing arm. And because we were using the stock chain tensioners, we had to add spacers. We used what we had in the garage, and it turned out to be 6 different sized washers. And because of all of that, it took forever to put the wheel on, and it took all 3 of us.
So even with all the problems that we encountered, I really enjoyed thinking of our own solutions to each of those problems. I could stare at this bike for hours just thinking about how to put a spring on or how to reroute that one wire, and I did.
More than just building the bike, it kind of brought our group back together. From the first Rattler, we were spending a lot of time together, but then in between then, you know, everyone got married and had kids or whatnot. But this project kind of put us back together, refocused us on this new project, the new evolution of what the Rattler became.
Choke. Choke's on. Cock is on.
Yep. I think that the bike turned out a lot better than I thought it would. The Rattler became what it was destined to become.
I didn't have any ideas of how it was supposed to be or what it was destined to be. I just kind of always looked at it as kind of something we can always work on together.
I feel that the Rattler turned out exactly how it was supposed to be from the start. You know, at first we were amateurs, and then we were spectators of the Dirtbag Challenge, and we actually made a film about it, and then we actually built one.
We spent 3 weekends and a few weeknights here and there to finish this build. So it came out to about 8 days total, and we spent $980 to make our own chopper. That's not bad for a bunch of amateurs.
Sounds are coming from. Okay. Like at a certain frequency and a certain when the vibration hits a certain frequency, the tank will rattle. When it hits another frequency, the chain will hit the fender. So I'm not freaking out anymore. I'm like, Okay, I know that when I'm in third gear, about 50, the tank's gonna make this sound.
You had bright eyes and big dreams. You made those plans and ran away. Packed photographs in your bags. You said, I'm coming back someday. Packed your gear and ran away. Put your life into a small box. You gave up everything. Brainwashed, confused, and beaten. Killing for cash just can't get you down. You took that 10 grand bonus. You're beating skulls right into the ground. We wonder if we'll see you, or will you come back wrapped in a bag with photographs and bad dreams. Your mom is hanging on your tags. Packed your gear and ran away. Put your life into a small box. You gave up everything.
I've gone to other bike shows, and the focus is on who built the bike, where it came from, even how old it is, or who used to own it. Guys even brag about how expensive the build was, or how long it took them. The Dirtbag Challenge is the opposite of that.
What I like about it is seeing people from all walks of life, with all levels of skill and ability, with all levels of resource. Sure, they give out prizes and stuff, and they do call it, you know, a challenge. But to me, it's not so much about that part of it. The challenge is completing the bike. That's my prize. That's what I enjoy.
The people at Dirtbag are like good, salty earth people. The most interesting thing I thought was, you know, the one-off bikes, the people, the ones that no one has and stuff like that. It's all going to be unique and handmade, and the person who built it's going to be right there. And they didn't have more money than me.
It's like a catalyst for creativity, you know, basically. You don't know if you have the skill to do whatever unless you're put in a situation for you to apply that skill. That's what I think the importance of the event is.
I've been around the Dirtbag Challenge for about 6 or 7 years now. I've gone as a spectator. I've covered it for a magazine. I made friends with the founder and a couple of the builders. My friends and I even made a documentary about it. But it wasn't until we built our own bike and I rode it down Highway 1 with the rest of the builders that I really got why these guys do what they do.
Best year ever, ever for me. The real high point of the fucking day was seeing your face when you rode back in on your bike, the one that you had stayed up all night working on, and the bike not only came together, but then you went and rode it, and you rode it pretty hard, and it survived, and you came back, and the look of satisfaction and triumph and pure joy on your face, like, just fucking changed it all for me right there. It's like, yeah, man, that's why I do this.
There was this one part at the end of the ride when we hopped on the freeway and I looked around me and there were like 30 or 40 bikes just taking up the entire road. And I couldn't help but just like yell in my helmet, "This is awesome!" You know, like just grinning ear to ear. I mean, nothing against stock bikes or anything like that. It's not like I'm gonna ride only custom bikes from now on. I have a DL1000 that I love riding. But riding a bike that you built yourself, to be completely hyper aware of what everything in that bike is doing, and to know where every little sound is coming from, to constantly wonder if that part that you made is gonna hold, and at the same time to constantly be amazed that it is holding, that's why these guys do what they do. And that's why the Rattler is unique. Not because of the parts that's on it, or not because of how it was made, but because of how it makes you feel.
Oh, it's personal triumph. Triumph over, you set yourself up with this adversity, you know, these obstacles to overcome. You find the time and somehow, and you put it together, and man, nothing tastes like that. Nothing tastes like that.
And that is how we built our first chopper. With a little confidence and a little research and a lot of help from our friends and a lot of hard work, we made it our own. In fact, I should say, I made it my own, especially since I did most of the work.
I feel like I did 50 to 100% of all the important stuff.
So Paul was going to edit all the footage of this video and make it seem like he did all the work, but he's full of shit. I did everything.
Wait. That's how we're gonna end the movie?
What's wrong with it? You don't like it?
Well, I didn't get to ride the bike, and I'm not in the ending.
Plus, we need to get to sum it up and say that we don't, in fact, need any experience to build a chopper.
You know, we should make a song out of it, make a whole musical number out of it.
Fuck that. No way. No. That sounds like a bad...
We got a bike from a guy that we know. He had it since '79. It was a pile of junk, it was covered in funk. It was fucking cool, awesome and fine. And Yamaha 650, it was rather nifty. We broke it down and built it up, broke it down again. Amateur, didn't know what to do. Well, we got it running in the end. You don't need a lot, work with what you got. In the end, you gotta make it your own.
Fuck no. No way. There's no way. No. That's gonna look awful.
Dude, it's gonna be awesome. We can even get Paul to join us.
Yeah, we could do a bunch of parodies and rip off a bunch of 80s videos.
You fucking wankers. No fucking way. No fucking how. It's not gonna fucking happen. You're having a fucking Turkish, you know that? You're looking for a fucking dry slap, you bunch of fucking spunk-buggable slags. Now,
No time for nice, nothing twice. Chop it down, roll it up, there's the trick. Ernie's paint, up the chrome. All the girls like the size of my Johnson. If I can't do this, and anyone can. You got a grand and a month, it's more. If you want a best bike and build it yourself, use your head and your hands, it's what they're for. You don't need a lot, but with what you got, in the end you gotta make it your own. Make it your own, don't just leave it alone. You gotta take it apart and make it your own. Make it your own, don't just leave it alone. You gotta take it apart and make it your own.